The Council transport hovered above the planet's atmosphere like a monolithic jewel, gleaming against the black canvas of space. From my station in the observation deck, I watched as delegates from hundreds of worlds moved with practiced precision, tentacles gliding, claws tapping, ocular sensors scanning, all adhering to centuries of protocol. Yet in that moment, a disturbance rippled through the air, subtle yet undeniable, an anomaly that my instruments recorded as a rise in tension and curiosity. And then he appeared, a human soldier, ordinary in size, ordinary in armor, but extraordinary in presence. His uniform was scuffed and worn, the marks of countless conflicts etched into the fabric. Every step he took seemed to press against the invisible current of expectation that bound the assembly together. My sensors noted minute vibrations in the chamber. The alien delegates leaned slightly closer, their appendages twitching in surprise, eyes widening in ways that betrayed centuries of composure. The human soldier's gaze swept across them, unflinching, assessing, commanding without a sound. The protocol holoscreen blinked to life as he requested a seat, a single line of text, simple, unassuming, but it was a challenge to the established hierarchy. Only diplomats and high-ranking officials were meant to board first, yet here was a human asking, quietly insisting, to be included. Murmurs rose through the chamber, low and cautious at first, then spreading into audible disbelief. I observed the subtle micro-expressions of alien delegates, a shift in eye pupil dilation, a tightening of sensory tentacles, the involuntary recoil of mandibles. Something about this species' audacity unsettled them. Yet the soldier did not falter. His movements were deliberate, measured, and patient, exuding a calm certainty that seemed almost unnatural to the chamber. He did not shout, he did not demand, but every action carried a silent insistence that rippled through the ranks. Delegates who had never been questioned in centuries hesitated. Micropauses turned into reconsiderations. The Council, a machine of meticulous order, wavered. Even the most stoic and experienced delegates were forced to pause, caught in the gravity of a species they had long underestimated. Whispers escalated to low debates. Debates became formal objections, yet the human soldier remained steady. His presence alone began to reconfigure the dynamics of the Council. I observed his subtle cues, a tilt of the head, a precise step forward, the way he kept his gaze level with the assembly without flinching. There was power here, but not the explosive, mechanical power the galaxy was used to measuring. This was something more insidious, more commanding, an aura of resilience and certainty that forced consideration. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Alien protocols clashed with instinct, with centuries of experience now insufficient to predict what this human would do or compel others to accept.
One delegate, a creature whose lifespan spanned nearly 8 centuries, attempted a procedural blockade, citing laws older than most human civilizations. The soldier did not argue. He moved calmly into position, raised his hand slightly, and waited. Silence fell across the chamber. It was not fear, exactly. It was acknowledgement, recognition that here was a species that would not yield to expectation. And then, as if the air itself had shifted, a ripple of acceptance moved through the Council. One by one, the objections dissipated, replaced by reluctant approval. The soldier was granted a seat. No cheer, no applause, only the quiet settling of a moment that would be remembered. Yet the impact was profound. I could see it in the chamber's atmosphere. The very essence of protocol had bent, reshaped, and adapted to accommodate this human's determination. From my vantage, I realized the significance. Humans thrive in spaces where others hesitate. They stand firm where others bend. Their courage does not shout, it radiates. And in that quiet act, small to the untrained eye but monumental in consequence, they demonstrated a power that could not be contained, resilience, ingenuity, and an almost alien sense of inevitability. The soldier's calm presence lingered like an aftershock, coiling through the chamber. The other delegates, now seated, whispered among themselves, reassessing, recalculating. The Council had changed, not in structure, not in rules, but in perception, and I sensed, with both awe and a subtle tremor of fear, that this was only the beginning. What a human could achieve when the galaxy underestimated them was still unfolding, and the first shock had already been delivered. Even as he settled into his seat, the human's eyes scanned the assembly once more, and I noted an imperceptible tension coiling behind the quiet assurance in his expression. Something was coming. Something that no protocol, no centuries of precedent, and no alien calculation could contain. And I, a mere observer, could only watch and wonder, realizing that the galaxy itself had been forced to take note of a species whose power was defined not by weaponry, but by spirit. The ripple from the soldier's audacity continued to reverberate long after he had been seated. The council chamber, a hall of calculated motions and centuries-old decorum, seemed suddenly unsteady. Alien delegates, whose lifespans often exceeded hundreds of human years, faltered in mid-discussion. Words were swallowed, arguments left dangling, gestures frozen as if sensing some invisible force. It was not fear in the traditional sense. It was respect, tension, awe, a recognition of an anomaly that defied all prior understanding.
The human soldier did not speak excessively. He did not demand attention. Yet his very posture, his calm and measured demeanor, radiated authority. Delegates instinctively recalculated, their centuries of protocol insufficient to predict the trajectory of this species' influence. Negotiations began, but the rhythm was unlike any I had previously recorded. Humans brought not only intellect, but a strange, unshakable patience. One alien delegate attempted a procedural maneuver designed to corner their position, a strategy that had worked flawlessly countless times over decades of diplomacy. The human countered, subtly, not with confrontation, but with timing so precise that the opposition was disarmed before they even realized the human had acted. Every motion, every glance, every measured word shifted the chamber. It was an orchestrated dance of influence, one that humans performed instinctively. Around the chamber, micro-reactions became visible across multiple species. A counselor whose species relied on intimidation recoiled slightly, reassessing the weight of words that had no volume but immense force. Another delegate, known for calculating threats with near-perfect accuracy, paused mid-gesture, uncertainty flaring across multiple sensory nodes. Even seasoned advisors, whose experience rivaled centuries, began to whisper to one another, acknowledging, hesitantly, the potency of human resolve. Throughout the session, humans displayed an uncanny ability to turn disadvantage into opportunity. Where other species might have attempted dominance or coercion, humans leveraged patience, adaptability, and subtle persuasion. I recorded a human quietly redirecting a debate that threatened to collapse into hostile confrontation. Another mediated a tense exchange with a species whose physiology amplified every emotional expression, calming tempers without a single raised voice. And the soldier, the one whose simple request had ignited this chain of disruption, observed and intervened only when necessary, his presence alone stabilizing and controlling the room. By the end of the session, the council was fundamentally altered. Alien delegates recalibrated their expectations, acknowledging a species that defied traditional metrics of power. Humans did not just survive the session, they redefined it. I recorded an undeniable truth. The humans wield a strength beyond the physical, beyond weapons or fleets. Their resilience, ingenuity, and moral clarity reshaped not only interactions in this chamber, but the trajectory of future galactic negotiations. And yet, even as the council adjourned, a subtle tension remained in the air. The human influence had set in motion something larger, a current of uncertainty and possibility that would ripple outward. Allies and adversaries alike would now view every decision, every plan, through the lens of this species' unexpected capability. As I watched the humans exit the chamber, I felt both awe and trepidation. The story was far from over. The humans' resolve had planted a seed of change, one that would grow beyond the council walls, far beyond what any species had anticipated. And somewhere, beyond the stars, I sensed the first whispers of a challenge that humans had yet to meet, a test that would demand everything they had demonstrated and more. The galaxy was bracing, unconsciously, for what was coming next. The council chamber's echoes had barely faded when the consequences of human presence began to unfold across the galaxy. I observed alien delegations whispering in corners, their voices tinged with uncertainty. Prior alliances, forged over centuries, were now being reconsidered. Rivals who had once operated with calculated certainty began to hesitate. A single human, merely seated among the council, had disrupted decades of strategic expectation. The unpredictable element humans introduced, resilience, ingenuity, and an indomitable will, was spreading like an invisible contagion. The human soldier moved alongside his peers, engaging in subtle diplomacy that others would have dismissed as naive if they did not observe the precise outcomes. Every action, every pause, every carefully timed glance carried more weight than any technology or weaponry. I recorded interactions where rival species, accustomed to intimidation, found themselves unarmed not by threats, but by humans' calm precision. Where alien commanders might have expected rigid negotiation patterns, humans improvised with fluidity, anticipating contingencies that their counterparts could barely comprehend. Reports began filtering through galactic channels, confirming what I had observed. Human resilience was not confined to the council chamber. Isolated sectors detailed feats that defy logic. Entire colonies had survived orbital bombardments that would have annihilated more advanced species. Humans shielded weaker civilizations, sometimes at great personal cost, displaying a capacity for empathy that the galaxy rarely accounted for. I noted individual cases, one human negotiating peace between warring species, another navigating a collapsing planetary conduit to rescue a stranded delegation, yet another orchestrating a counterattack against forces deemed overwhelmingly superior. Each act, though small in isolation, rippled outward, reshaping perceptions of human capability. Alien commanders, now aware of humans' unpredictable effectiveness, recalculated strategies in real time. Fleets once confident in their tactical superiority hesitated, faltered, or retreated under circumstances previously thought trivial. I observed entire councils scrambling to reprioritize resources and reevaluate the assumptions underpinning their long-term plans. The humans did not need to demonstrate physical dominance to rewrite the galaxy's expectations. They merely operated according to an instinctive clarity of purpose. And yet, through all of this, the humans maintained humility.
They did not boast, did not flaunt victories, did not demand recognition. Their courage was measured, their actions deliberate. They did not seek fear or subjugation, they compelled respect. And this subtle influence, the quiet reshaping of alliances, the recalibration of strategy, the unspoken command of attention, was more powerful than any weapon ever conceived. I sensed tension mounting across multiple systems, a prelude to a confrontation no alien species had anticipated. The humans' movements were not chaotic, they were deliberate, coordinated, and instinctively effective. Their presence had altered the balance of power. Old rivalries softened, new partnerships formed, and species that had dismissed humanity now sought counsel or collaboration. In every sector, humans forced recalculation. They had turned disadvantage into advantage with an almost instinctual brilliance. As I recorded these events, I realized something profound. Humans are not merely participants in the galaxy's political and military games. They are catalysts. Their adaptability, ingenuity, and unwavering resolve disrupt calculations, force reassessment, and challenge assumptions. The ripple of their influence would extend far beyond the immediate council or individual skirmishes. Every observer, every strategist, every world now faced a reality it could not ignore. The humans were shaping the galaxy in ways no one could predict. And still, I sensed that the most pivotal trials lay ahead. Challenges approaching across the void would test every ounce of their skill, courage, and ingenuity. The humans would meet them, not with fear, but with clarity, determination, and an unspoken understanding that the impossible could be made possible. The galaxy, unprepared for this resilience, would bear witness to something extraordinary. Even from a distant observation point, I could feel the tension coiling across star systems, a latent storm waiting to break. And at the eye of that storm stood humans, poised to redefine what it meant to endure, to adapt, and to triumph. The next confrontation loomed, and its outcome, though uncertain, would be shaped by the very essence of human resolve. The void beyond the council chambers had become a theater of anticipation, stretching across light years. From my orbital sensors, I observed fleets converging, weapon systems humming with lethal precision. Entire civilizations had deemed humanity incapable of surviving this confrontation. Yet humans moved as though the galaxy's judgment held no weight. Their ships maneuvered with fluidity, weaving between devastating firepower and collapsing space lanes, morale radiating like an invisible protective aura. It was a force no alien sensor could quantify, yet impossible to ignore. The soldier, the same one who had been denied a seat, stood on the bridge of a human battleship, his gaze calm, focused, and unyielding. Around him, humans moved with seamless coordination.
Each action seemed spontaneous, yet the results were precise. Fleets that had been expected to annihilate them were disrupted, diverted, or outmaneuvered, often before alien commanders realized what had occurred. It was as though humans operated on a plane of instinct and calculation unknown to any other species, turning chaos into opportunity with a brilliance that defied comprehension. I recorded a human frigate diving into the path of a massed weapon barrage. Shields flickered, hull plates groaned under pressure, yet the ship emerged unscathed, having diverted a critical strike and saved Allied vessels. Elsewhere, a squadron navigated a collapsing warp conduit to deliver reinforcements where no strategy had predicted they could reach. These were not flukes. They were deliberate acts, coordinated with an almost telepathic understanding among humans. Their courage was coupled with ingenuity, improvisation, and unspoken bonds that amplified the effectiveness of every crew member. Alien commanders recalculated again and again, yet humans anticipated, adapted, and countered faster than any algorithm could predict. Every calculation made centuries obsolete. Ships considered invulnerable were neutralized through clever maneuvers rather than overwhelming firepower. Entire fleets were forced into retreat by strategies no one could foresee. From my distant vantage, I felt awe ripple through me like a shockwave. Humans were rewriting the rules of engagement with nothing but determination, skill, and resolve. Then, at the apex of this escalating chaos, the soldier acted decisively. A sequence of movements, executed with unerring precision, turned the tide completely. Enemy command ships, considered untouchable, were neutralized, not through raw force, but through foresight, timing, and calculated risk. The battlefield, once a predictable tableau of firepower and strategy, was now a stage for human ingenuity. Every faction observed helplessly as humans transformed despair into advantage, near certain defeat into decisive victory. The climax was not a single event, but a cascade of human brilliance. Tactical retreats became ambushes, defensive maneuvers became offensive strikes. Moments that would have seemed suicidal to any other species were executed flawlessly. And yet amidst this, humans remained calm. No one celebrated prematurely. No one assumed final victory. Their focus was singular: survival, protection of allies, and the achievement of the impossible. Even as fleets withdrew and the immediate threat dissipated, the resonance of human defiance lingered. Alien strategists recalculated in real time, attempting to understand a species that had operated beyond expectation, intuition, and conventional logic. I recorded fleets reversing course, councils hurriedly reforming plans, and older species whispering anxiously about what they had underestimated. Humans did not merely survive, they dominated the narrative of the encounter. They forced the galaxy to acknowledge a truth it could no longer deny. Humans are exceptional, unpredictable, and indomitable. Their influence extended far beyond tactics or weaponry. It was the sheer essence of human ingenuity and courage, operating in a way no alien species had previously conceived possible. And yet, even in victory, a quiet tension remained. Humans had proven their resilience, but they had also revealed a potential that few could anticipate. Their presence had not only altered the outcome of this battle, it had shifted the very fabric of galactic power. The ripple of their actions would spread across star systems, recalibrating alliances, strategies, and expectations. From my vantage, awe and apprehension coalesced. I could see the galaxy's recognition. Humans were no longer a minor species, no longer predictable, no longer bound by previous limitations. They were catalysts of change, uncontainable and unstoppable in ways that could not yet be fully understood. Even now, as the last enemy ships retreated and silence returned to the void, I sensed the next challenge forming, a threat even greater than this one. Humans would face it not with hesitation or fear, but with the same clarity, determination, and ingenuity that had redefined the impossible. The galaxy was watching, trembling, and learning. And at the center of it all, humans stood resolute, ready to turn the next crisis into another testament of their indomitable will. The battlefields had fallen silent, yet the galaxy itself hummed with the aftermath. Across star systems, sensors recorded subtle recalibrations, fleets repositioning, alliances reconsidered, strategies rewritten. I observed alien delegations in council chambers and strategic outposts, their appendages twitching, oculars wide with astonishment. The humans had emerged not as conquerors, but as exemplars of resilience, courage, and moral clarity. A single species had redefined expectations across civilizations that had considered themselves untouchable for millennia. The soldier who had once been denied a seat, the one whose quiet defiance had sparked a chain of revelation, had become a symbol. Not a symbol of domination, not a herald of aggression, but of human potential. Across the galaxy, species whispered of him, some in awe, some in apprehension. Alien councils convened with the knowledge that their prior assumptions had been catastrophically flawed. Humans, it seems, had rewritten the rules, not by force, but by embodying qualities no other species had mastered: ingenuity, patience, and an unwavering spirit. I recorded subtle shifts in policy and alliances. Species who had once dismissed humanity as insignificant now sought guidance, partnership, or at least understanding. Negotiations were approached differently, as if the very presence of humans compelled reflection and caution.
Old rivalries softened. Previous enemies hesitated before taking action, weighing the unpredictable brilliance of humans against their own centuries of experience. The galaxy had learned, in a single, unforgettable series of events, that the measure of power was not in fleets alone, but in the indomitable will of a species that refused to yield. Humans themselves remained humble. There was no celebration, no boastful displays, no declarations of triumph. Their focus was singular: survival, protection, and the quiet fulfillment of duty. They did not seek glory. They sought to endure, to safeguard, and to persist against impossible odds. And in this humility lay a subtle, terrifying power. Species across the stars took note. Humans did not inspire fear, yet they commanded respect in a way that reshaped calculations, strategies, and perceptions. I documented acts of quiet heroism that rippled across multiple systems. A human envoy brokered peace where centuries of conflict had made diplomacy seem impossible. A human fleet rescued isolated colonies from annihilation, navigating collapsed warp corridors with deft precision. Another human acted alone, stabilizing a failing orbital station while surrounded by alien adversaries, preventing catastrophe with nothing but resourcefulness and courage. These were not anomalies, they were patterns. Humans did not wait for opportunity, they created it. They did not retreat from challenge, they mastered it. From my vantage point, I felt a mixture of awe and unease. Humanity had revealed itself not merely as a capable species, but as a transformative force. The presence of humans demanded reconsideration at every level, from council deliberations to galactic strategy boards. The story of a single soldier denied a seat had blossomed into a revelation. Human resilience, ingenuity, and moral clarity were forces capable of reshaping civilizations, altering alliances, and challenging assumptions once considered immutable. Even as the galaxy stabilized, a quiet tension lingered. Humans had proven their capability, but they had also illuminated the limits of alien understanding. The galaxy had glimpsed the potential of a species that could adapt, innovate, and endure beyond expectation. They had survived where others would have failed. They had inspired where others might have intimidated. They had acted with clarity, courage, and integrity where others might have succumbed to fear or indecision. I recorded the final council sessions, noting the profound change in perception. Delegates spoke differently, moved differently, planned differently. Human influence had not been loud or ostentatious. It was quiet, deliberate, and enduring. Their presence was a reminder that power could manifest not only through firepower or numerical superiority, but through resilience, ingenuity, and unwavering resolve. And as I observed the humans return to their stations, ships, and settlements, I realized the galaxy itself would never be the same. They had proven a singular truth. A species armed with courage, clarity, and the will to endure could redefine the cosmos. The story did not conclude with triumphalism. It concluded with inspiration. It was a testament to the extraordinary capabilities of humans,
a warning and a lesson for every species that believed the universe could be predicted, controlled, or contained. In the quiet aftermath, I felt both fear and reverence. Fear of a species whose potential defied expectation, and reverence for a species whose spirit illuminated what it meant to endure, to protect, and to prevail. The galaxy had witnessed not only the actions of humans, but the essence of humanity itself. And I knew with certainty that wherever the next challenge arose, be it political, environmental, or military, humans would rise to meet it. Their story was far from over. Their influence, now irreversible, would echo across the cosmos, shaping civilizations, strategies, and expectations for generations to come. The galaxy had changed, and I, as observer and chronicler, would carry the record of their indomitable spirit, a species that thrived in adversity, turned despair into triumph, and proved that even in the vast, indifferent expanse of space, the human spirit was a force that could not be ignored.